Before we go into the live product demonstration, which I'm sure is what you're most excited about, and I am too, and we're actually going to be showing you the latest version, 7.13, that came out literally a few days ago. So it's hot off the press. But I want to give you a little bit of background about the company and our product suite before we jump into SpiraTest, just so you can understand how it forms part of a larger picture and larger story. So first of all, Inflectra as a company, our mission, and we've been around since 2006, has been around quality. And if you sum up everything that we care about in one word, I would say it is quality. Quality is at the core of the company, both internally and in the products we develop and deliver. And what we want to do is help you achieve higher quality whilst delivering software faster and with lower risk. We want you to be agile, deliver with speed and at scale, but in doing so, not sacrifice quality. We believe you don't have to make that false trade-off. You don't have to sacrifice quality just because you want to deliver at speed and at scale. Another thing that's really important about quality, in my mind, is the people and the company behind a product. And so you can't deliver a good quality product without a good quality company and good quality people. And these are our company's 4 core values. One of them is actually about building great products, building for you, building for what our users actually need, not what the latest fad is. We obviously do look at market trends and look to see what makes sense for our customers, but we are customer experience driven. That's what makes us excited. That's what gets us up in the morning. And to help deliver a great customer experience, we have a great team. We try and have minimal bureaucracy, get things done for customers without necessarily worrying about whose turf it is, whose job it is. We're all there to help you. And behind a great team and great products, we have a great workplace with some great benefits. And we also believe that a great company does more than just deliver great products for its customers, but also benefits the wider community. And we've got some programs that we do as a company to help that, both helping people get into technology within the company through our hiring and onboarding people who may not come from a traditional technology background, but also expanding opportunities in the community in the wider market. And we've got some great website pages about how we've done that and how we want to do that in the future. Now, in terms of the company, before we dive into the SpiraTest product, which is one of our products, as a company, we provide capabilities for the end-to-end of product delivery. So everything from I come up with an idea of a new system or a new product, developing it, testing it, planning it, delivering it, supporting it, iterating on it, all of those different aspects from ideation as the buzzword, all the way through delivery and beyond. That's what we do. So these are our end-to-end capabilities. We have features for requirements management, testing, test management. We'll talk about those today, but also beyond that, helping people manage the software project management, scaled agile, RPA, product automation, test automation, and IT service management. And they all come together to help you deliver software faster, better, with lower risk. But these are the different capabilities. And when you map that into our product suite with the logos, this is how it breaks down. We'll be talking today about SpiraTest. That's our entry-level product for the QA teams. It helps you add quality to your existing set of products and tools you're using. And we'll talk about that in a second, about how that integrates. But SpiraTest basically takes your existing software development lifecycle and adds quality to it, like an ingredient. Then we have many clients that when they start to look at that say, well, actually, I really love to have quality infused throughout my life cycle, and I'd rather have some of the quality and best practices of SpiraTest be throughout the team, not just in the QA team. And that's what SpiraTeam is for. It's a project-wide, a team-wide platform for managing, testing, and developing software and systems that covers all the different disciplines. And then we have customers that say, well, my teams love using SpiraTeam, but I've got lots of teams. We'd like more teams to use it. And we're like, well, that sounds great. And so we have SpiraPlan, which helps you take what's working for 1 or 2 teams and take it across the enterprise. So depending on your needs, you may be a SpiraTest customer, you might be a SpiraTeam or SpiraPlan customer. We have products that really fit what you need, depending on what's the burning need you have at that moment. Once you have Spira in place, then we do have some additional products, which are not subject to today's webinar, but we do have other webinars on them. We've got some recordings on YouTube as well, and we have some future webinars. We have Repeats for test automation, which is going to have some exciting Gen AI capabilities added to it in the next release, and that's around test automation. We have an IT service management platform called Chronodesk, and we have exploratory testing capture tool called SpiraCapture, which is actually free on the Google and Edge marketplaces. So that is the entire suite. We will be drilling down into SpiraTest today. But before we do that, just a few other things to mention is, as a company, and I mentioned at the beginning, that we really believe that there's a false trade-off people have in their minds between speed and quality. They want to be able to deliver at speed and at scale, which are the things on the right: DevOps, CI/CD, moving to Agile, Scrum, Kanban, scaled Agile, whatever it is that makes sense. Distributed teams, fast, fast, fast. But in doing so, we still need to have quality gates. We still need to make sure that what we deliver is of the highest quality, because if a system goes down for even a second, that could be billions of dollars, or it could be regulatory fines, it could be a lawsuit, depending on the industry you're in. All kinds of bad things happen when quality suffers. And we see this in the news all the time without mentioning specific examples of that. And so we believe as a company that you can have it all. You can have agile, speed, scale, and quality and compliance. And we bridge these two worlds together. So that's the company mission and the company background. What about SpiraTest? How is SpiraTest different? Well, first of all, SpiraTest is an integrated platform that does requirements and backlog tracking with test case management, and defect management. Many products out there just do test management, and we basically drop that into an existing project management system, and there's no linkages. You've got no links between your requirements and your test cases, no links between your test cases and your test executions and your defects. So you can't do traceability analysis. You can't understand what's the impact on the requirements, what's the impact on the defects. Why does this one defect keep reopening? Why does this one requirement, this one user story, have hundreds of defects that we keep finding? Could we not find the root cause? So the difference is, we believe that having these three together in a QA system is really important, and is so important that we believe that everyone should be doing that. You should be linking these different pieces of data together to give you that traceability. We also believe that APIs and integrations are super important, and they come with the solution. They're not extra add-ons, and that having a wide ecosystem of different tools that we integrate with through these APIs is also really important for our customers. We want you to be using SpiraTest, not having to be a system integrator. And we'll talk more about that in some of the later slides. So in terms of integration, for SpiraTest is really targeted at customers that have a lot of other tools that they like. You have Jira, you have Azure DevOps, you've got maybe some load testing tools, you've got GitLab, GitHub, maybe ServiceNow. You have a variety of different platforms that you're using for software development, for service management, project management. Many customers have, for example, Azure DevOps for their Microsoft teams, Atlassian Jira for their non-Microsoft teams, maybe some other combinations. Maybe there's open source in there like Redmine or Track. Whatever it is that you have, we have seamless integration. SpiraTest drops in, integrates with all these different tools out of the box, so you don't have to reorganize your tool chain. And that's the really important piece. It drops in there, it gives you that traceability without requiring you to rip and replace all the tools that you already have. Another thing that's really important for us is giving our customers choice. As I mentioned earlier on, we are customer experience driven. And so we do provide you different hosting options. And this has become a major differentiator actually over the last couple of years. Many of our competitors have gone 100% SaaS. And SaaS is great. We have SaaS options that include multiple different regions. We can host it in our cloud, which is backed by Amazon Web Services. We can host it for you in the US, in Canada, in Europe, which is Ireland and Germany, an Asia Pacific region. We've got 3 different regions there, in fact. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different regions you can host it within at the same price, and you can change regions. So if you want to host it in a different region for privacy or performance reasons, you can do that at no cost to yourself. So when it comes to SaaS, we love SaaS, very flexible, industry standard, built on Amazon Web Services, SOC 2, ISO 27001 in place. However, many clients want some other options. So we give you the choice. You can have it self-hosted on your own physical hardware, on bare metal, on virtual servers. You can host it in your own private cloud, which could be private cloud, or it could even be an instance of a public cloud that you control. We have some clients that have AWS regions or Azure regions, and they have all their apps installed on that. They want more control than the SaaS app gives you. They want control over the encryption keys. They want control over some of the other services. We've got some clients that want to integrate SpiraTest with Azure OpenAI privately. And so they can do that. So we give you these different options. As you know, many of our competitors, particularly Atlassian, is moving to 100% cloud, and some of the plugins that run on their platform are also going cloud only. We do not have that as a forced choice for you. If you choose the intellectual platform, you can choose between these different options. There's 100% feature parity and API compatibility. So a plugin we have for, say, JUnit or NUnit or TestNG or Python or any of the other plugins we have will work the same with any of our versions, whether it's public, private, or self-hosted. And we release updates every month for both versions, and the same features are in both. And lastly, if you want to change between, say, on-premise or private or public cloud or SaaS, we can do that for you seamlessly. It's a very easy migration. It doesn't require an army of consultants to do that. Here's some of the customers that we have, by industry. If you go to our website, there's a much longer list. We also have industry case studies and customer case studies on our website, so please check those out. We've got some video testimonies as well as some written testimonies. And as I mentioned earlier on, we do believe that as the world is becoming more complicated, we're trying to deliver software faster. We're also dealing with more and more regulations. Many of these regulations didn't exist 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or getting more rigorous and more complicated. These are just some of the basic ones. Every industry has their own. You know, banking has Know Your Customer, Sarbanes-Oxley, Basel II or Basel III. You look at healthcare, there's loads, manufacturing, all the ISO standards, risk standards. It's only going to get more complicated to develop software. Software is becoming the fabric of the world. The economy runs on software. As software does that, unfortunately or fortunately, regulators and governments get more interested in more involved in it. So the cost of making a mistake, the cost of a quality escape, I hate that use that word, but quality escape becomes much more severe. Whereas if you had a bug 10 years ago, you know, your company can maybe just fix it. You might be now dealing with a regulator or fines or major lawsuits or any of the above. And as I mentioned earlier on, from a SpiraTest specific standpoint, we have a wide range of integrations. Our platform as a whole has about 80 integrations, of which 65 are specifically for SpiraTest. And these are just some of the ones that we have. If you go to our website, again, we have a much larger list of these, covering the main integration points that you'd want from a QA tool: IDEs, unit tests, automation tools, load testing, performance testing, functional testing, bug tracking, project management, requirements modeling, performance testing, and service management. SpiraTest as itself won lots of awards. If you go to our website, we've got a few of those on our website, but also it's best to get independent reviews. If you go to Capterra, IT Central Station, G2 Crowd, Trustpilot, there's a bunch of others as well, Gartner Digital Markets. We have many different reviews on there, Infotech, software reviews. Feel free to check us out. And we have lots of different reviews. On our website, we do have case studies as well. And on YouTube, we have some video testimonials as well. So lots of different options to get independent, reviews of the company and our products. So you like what you see after the demo today, which we're going to get to next. What if you want to migrate? What are the options for that? Well, we have lots of different migration tools available. And today we've been focusing a lot on people coming from legacy test management tools. The three we're going to pick on, to use that word, is TestRail, Qtest, and Practitest. These are three that are out there on the market. We've had a significant number of customers in the last, I would say, 6 months to a year come to us to migrate for these tools for a variety of reasons. From a Qtest and Practitest, I believe it's around price and around reporting and dashboarding. Also, I think in some of those cases, they wanted to be able to get onto the Inflectra platform with SpiraTest, to then get down the road onto SpiraTeam or SpiraPlan to have some additional functionality. Specifically with TestRail, I believe there's been some stability issues in that platform and lack of customer satisfaction. Again, I can't speak to that. We're not a customer of any of these companies. We're just talking about customers that have come to us looking to migrate. And when we ask them, why are you looking to migrate? That's what they've typically said. These are the three migration tools we're going to focus on and feature, but there are other ones as well. We have migration tools for open source TestLink, which is used by some companies that have open source test management. We have migration tools for the Micro Focus OpenText family of tools like ALM. We also have migration from Microsoft Test Manager, which is part of ADO/TFS. We've got quite a few ADO customers that like ADO for its project management and DevOps, but don't necessarily like its test management. Either it's too expensive or too clunky. So we can integrate the ADO piece and replace Test Manager. Those are also on our website. But these are the three that we're talking about in the webinar. But these are the three, again, most common ones that people are using. These migration tools are completely seamless from an end user standpoint. All you do is connect them to, say, TestRail or Qtest or Practitest. You put in the URL for the appropriate tool, put in either the login or password or API key or token key, depending on the application. You choose what items you want to import. And depending on what that tool supports, as you can see here, for TestRail, we're going to bring in milestones, test runs, test cases, and test sections and users. For Qtest, we bring in the requirements, test cases, test sets, because they do have a requirements module. Practitest, same thing. We can bring in requirements, issues, test cases, and test runs, and attachments. And then when they come in, it creates a whole new project into Spira. and it will then allow you to then keep all of your attachments, keep all of the traceability and links between the requirements, the test case, and the defects. So it's not just bringing in a bunch of test cases, it's bringing in test cases, test steps, test executions, the links to defects, the links to requirements. So you're getting all of your traceability in a simple migration wizard. And we also are working on one migration tool that's not yet listed because it's not yet available, but we are working on an X-ray migration tool as well. We've got some customers that are on Jira that are moving from X-ray to us, and we have a migration tool that we're able to do both X-ray server, X-ray data center, and X-ray cloud. So that's another thing that's coming out. That's probably coming out in the next few weeks. It's in development right now. So with that, we're going to move on to the live demonstration portion of today's webinar. If you have any questions about the slides section, please put them in the chat. I'm going to address them at the end after the demo. But also, if again, when we go to the demo, there may be additional questions. Please write those as well. And as Rick mentioned, we are going to be sharing both the presentation slides and the video recording on our YouTube channel, website, and I think SlideShare. So lots of ways to get the information. In today's demo, just to give you an overview of the demo, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the functionality. I'm going to walk through the dashboards and navigation. I'm then going to create a new product, add some requirements, create some releases, write a few test cases, run a few tests, and log a bug or two, and then go to reporting. So I'm going to show you from beginning to end. So I'm not going to show you a lot of pre-filled data. I want to show you in use how you actually use it. So it's going to have a little bit of a user feel for today's webinar. Okay, and with that, let's get out of PowerPoint. And let's go over to Spira. This is
Spira. You can see your
Spira. Okay, thanks, Rick. Yeah, and again, people feel free to put any questions in the chat. So this is SpiraTest. I just signed up for a trial about an hour or two ago before the webinar. So this is it here. It's got this URL. When you first log into SpiraTest for the first time, you're going to see this new Start Your Journey. And this is brand new. So if any of you are existing customers or have signed up for a trial a few weeks ago, you're going to look at this and go, wait a second, Adam, I didn't see this. What's going on? This is literally brand new functionality we released about 2 days ago. And it's to improve the onboarding for new trial users. So if you sign up for a trial today, and I would recommend if you're using SpiraTest and you haven't got far into your trial, you might want to start a new trial because we've also added labels and tags for test cases in the new trial as well, which is really cool functionality. But this is here, and this helps guide you through your trial journey. So it's going to advise you on the basics, which is logging in. Now, I've done that already, so it's already gone green. You can go in here, you can change your user avatar. You can also go from light mode to dark mode. Some people like dark mode. Some people like light mode. I like light mode, but it's up to you. When we go to a booth at a conference, it looks nice in dark mode, but you can change it. It also adapts to your computer. If your computer is set for dark mode, it will automatically inherit that. Notice that it's already changed that too. There's also in-app help. So if you want to understand the help, you can always go to the keyboard shortcuts, which are right here, or you can go to the in-app help, which is right here. And that opens up SpiraDoc, and it's context sensitive, so it drops you into the right part of the application. Okay. Oh, look at that. It's done too. I'm not going to bother with the avatar. And then there's a quick start guide. If you want to do the quick start guide, it lets you walk through using the application for the first time. It's a really good resource. It's also on SpiraDoc right here. That walks you through how to use the app step by step. So feel free to do that. And when you've done that, you can check it off. And then you can start to do some of the things I'll be doing today, creating products, adding templates, adding roles, adding users, and then starting to add data. So, and you can also invite members of your team. So if you are starting a trial, one common mistake people make is they sign up for a trial and then all their friends sign up for a trial, their colleagues, I should say, sign up for a trial, maybe their friends too. They sign up for a trial and now you've got 3 trials. Well, SpiraTest is meant to be used by a team, so don't do that. Create one trial and then invite your team members to the same trial. Then you can work together. I can create a test case, assign it to you to test. You can do the same thing for me. And that's really important because SpiraTest is collaborative, and so don't have 3 separate trials. I mean, you can if you want, but definitely get the full value out of the trial experience. Best to work on one together. Just my little tip there. Okay, so that's that. One thing I want to shout out before I go into the live app, just to mention, as well as this documentation, there are people who are not, who are more visual learners and don't necessarily like reading lots of stuff. That's fine too. If you want to get more information on SpiraTest, we do have in our training section, we do have lots of training options. We do have our Inflectra campus. It's a live, free, completely free, self-paced walkthrough of how to use our tools, including SpiraTest, SpiraTeam, and SpiraPlan. You can click on the link here start that video, and it walks you through with a quiz at the end as well. So another great option if you want some training after this webinar, as well as reading SpiraDocs. So, okay, with that being said, let's start using it. So I've logged in. I've reviewed the in-app help. I know what I'm doing. So what would I do first? Well, first thing I would normally do is start creating a new product, adding data. Before I do that, just so I don't lose new users, just to give you a bit of an overview of the system. So the way SpiraTest is organized is in this main navigation bar at the top, that's where you have all the key information. So this icon on the top left, if you click on that, it takes you to this My Page. That's your home page. It's a customizable dashboard. So you can go in here and you could say, well, I'm finished with starting my journey. Let me minimize that or close it. So you can get rid of that. You can also add or remove different widgets on this page. It's also automatically hiding ones that have got no data in them. So you can also show ones that have data if you are empty if you want. So feel free to play around with the My Page. That's your personalized page where everything that you have to work on is listed. We'll come back to that when we start to create things. Now, then the hexagon, that's your product homepage. And the reason why that's a hexagon is if you go to the main navigation, you will see we've actually got multiple different products. So in SpiraTest, you're typically going to be using it to test one or more system. Every system you're testing should be a Spira product. For example, I've got a CRM system, I've got a company website, I've got an ERP system, think like, Oracle Financials, QuickBooks, Deltek, Oracle, Xero. Pick your favorite ERP system. HR, PeopleSoft, I guess it's Oracle now, SAP, Success Factors, whatever it is. These are the different systems you're going to be testing. Each one is going to be a separate product in Spira, and we can group them under a program, which is a collection of products. So the fact that these are the icon for a product is a hexagon, the icon for a program is 3 hexagons. Products also use a template. Templates are where all the configuration and customization lives. So you can have one template that multiple different products will use, and that has this icon here. So now that you understand the different workspaces, if I click on a hexagon, that's the icon for a product. That's going to take me to the product homepage. So this is the homepage for a single product or project. And as you can see, it shows me all the information across the different parts of the system that are important for me. I can see any open issues. I can see my requirements percentage completion. I can see my requirements test coverage. I can see my defect metrics, how many bugs are open, what's the distribution of bugs. I can see my burn down charts, burn up, I can see my schedule. And you're probably thinking like, well, these seem like general project metrics, but I want some testing metrics. And there are some testing metrics here, but don't worry, there is a focused testing version of the dashboard where we put all the testing widgets on by default. And that's where all the QA metrics are right here: requirements coverage, test status, progress over time. You can see the test status by release, by version, by sprint. All of that's available right here. And this is your QA dashboard. So if you're the QA manager, I would say click on this one and that will remember it for the next time you come here. If you're the Scrum Master or Project Manager, you might want the general view. So there are different views. All the views can be customized. So that's where you'd get your product dashboard. That's where you get your homepage. That's where all the information will live from a reporting standpoint. There's also a more detailed analytics page called reporting, where you can actually drill down and create more customized reports as well. We'll come back to that right at the end. So just to recap, you've got the main navigation where you can choose your different products. You've got the product homepage. Within each product, we have the artifacts menu, and that's where you can see all the functionality you have. We're going to create a brand new product and create some requirements. We're going to add some releases. We're going to add some test cases and run a few. We're going to log a few defects, and then we're going to go to reporting. Now, before I do that, though, you might be wondering, why are these items grayed out with a little padlock? What does that mean? Well, that's because SpiraTest is part of the Spira family. And during the trial, you might decide, well, actually, as much as my team is really got QA problems, we've got to understand our testing. Our team isn't particularly happy with their planning tools. They're not very happy with how we do source code management or DevOps. Maybe we want to do risk management. So this is where if you wanted to upgrade to Spira Team or Spira Plan, which offers additional functionality beyond the core QA functionality, you can also upgrade your trial or sign up for a new trial. So that's what that means. That's why you see a padlock. There are features in the Spira platform, but not in SpiraTest. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a new product. To do that, you go to the administration menu. This is the admin menu. The admin menu is broken into 3 sections. This is my product level administration. This is my template level administration. The middle and the bottom is my system administration. Now, to create a new product, there is a system admin function. So I'll go there. I'm going to create a new product. And let's go ahead and let's create a new one. And I'm going to hide the ones that are inactive, just to make it a bit easier. There we go. Let's create a new one. So we're going to create, Adam's AM demo product. And then here I would describe what the system is supposed to do. I'm not going to bother. And it's a new product. It's not based on an existing one. And what's the template I want to use? Now, I can use an existing template. I can also create a new template. If I create a new template, it means any customization I make to this product is going to be unique to this one and won't affect any other products. If I wanted to inherit one of our standard product templates, which with the workflows and custom fields, I could do that. I'm going to create a new one because I'm going to use it for this demo and this demo only. And when I create my demo for tonight's webinar, I'll probably use the same template. But I don't necessarily want to use one of the existing ones right now, but that's really up to you. Let me go ahead and do that. And I'll put it in the default program. I'll put in the sample program. There we go. Hit insert. It's now creating my product. Takes a few seconds to do that. And there we go. That's my new product. And my membership is right here. So who's a member of this product? Well, just me, which isn't very useful. Really, I want other people to be a member of this new product. So I don't need to be a sysadmin to do this. The product admin can do this because it's related to just this one product. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to add additional people. So let me add Amy as a tester, and these roles are customizable. I'm going to add Fred as a manager. I'm going to add Henry as a developer. I'm going to add Martha as another manager. And I'm going to add Rory as a, what do we have? An observer, just for example, hit add. Okay. So now I've added some people. They're members of the project or product. So that's good. That's actually all I have to do. That's me. I can now get started using it. So that's how simple the system is. I don't have to go in and configure things, customize things, change workflows, custom fields, none of that. You can, you don't have to. So you can customize it all in the workflow right here. We'll do that a bit later. But right out of the box, I can go straight here into requirements and I can start using the product. And so for today's demonstration, let's pick a industry. Let's imagine we're going to be building a new restaurant comparison application. So we're going to build an application where you want to go to a restaurant with some friends and you want to be able to find a restaurant that you can both agree to and maybe has the necessary dietary restrictions and things. So it's like a sort of a Yelp or a TripAdvisor for restaurants, but more of a collaborative version. So that's our new business idea. So we're going to create some user stories for that. So let's go ahead and do that first. So I'm just going to create some requirements. Now, depending on the methodology, you might call them requirements, you might call them user stories. That's really up to you. The types of requirements that you have are all customizable depending on your methodology. If you're doing an agile, typically you'd call them user stories. We're just going to call them, product requirements for right now. Okay, so that's my heading, and I want to create some user stories. Oops, under that, so let's create user story. We're going to create a new one, which would be as a user. I want to be able to enter a cuisine and location and find a restaurant. That's a user story. And I might another one, which would be as a user, I want to be able to invite friends to collaborate on a search. So I know what I want to eat, but I don't know what they want to eat. So I can invite my friends. And another one would be as a group of users, I want to receive restaurant recommendations. And these are very simple user stories. So again, makes sense. Now we could maybe decide we want to group these into epics. Oh, I didn't change the type. So if you decide, like I did, I forgot to change the type to user story because I was doing it quickly, that's fine. You can always do a bulk edit. So we'll just do select all. And I'll deselect the heading. I'll choose edit. And I'll make that user story. And I'll hit the fill button. So now they're all user stories. Okay, fix that. So that's good. So now I've got 3 user stories. Let's say I want to create an epic, which would be, let's say it's finding a restaurant. That's my epic, restaurant. And the other epic might be the group. It's kind of the group management. So I'll put that one here. And that would be, group management. Basically getting a group of people who want to find a restaurant together. So I would put this one under this one. That's finding a restaurant. That's the epic. And I'll put these two, because these are collaborative, under that one. So I've now got a hierarchy of stories and epics. And again, you can have feature story epic. If you're doing scaled agile, you can have user stories, whatever is the right terminology for your product, you can do that. And if you wanted to customize these types that you see here, maybe make user story the default type, for example, you can do that by going to the administration section, going to this, and that's where you can make a decision to change some of the way the system is configured right here. So maybe we make user story the default like that. So that's easy enough to do. So you can make these changes, you can adjust the types, and that will affect any product using that template. So that's, again, as I mentioned at the beginning, you don't have to do that day one, but you can certainly customize it as you're going. So I've now got my requirements. Okay, great. Now I would like to know what version these are going to come in. That's a good idea too from a planning standpoint. And then for testing, so I'm just going to make it very simple. I'm not going to worry about sprints and a bit more detail. I'm just going to create two versions, release 1.0 and release 2.0. Now, and you might say, well, I really want to do some more advanced backlog planning. I'd like to have a nice board. If you want some of that functionality, boards and planning, that's in SpiraTeam, and we have that functionality absolutely. And again, we have webinars on SpiraTeam and SpiraPlan. I can show you that then. In the case of SpiraTest, we are assuming that this stuff is being done somewhere else, and you can do some basic story management and basic release management, but the more sophisticated functionality is in our SpiraTeam product. So then you might say, well, these requirements that have come in, what if I'm using Jira or Azure DevOps? Where do they come from? Well, the great news is our integration with Azure DevOps and Jira and other tools automatically brings in requirements from those tools. So I've manually created these right now because I'm not hooked up to one of those tools. If you connect SpiraTest to, say, Azure DevOps or Jira, you will have this backlog automatically imported, linked to Jira, or Azure DevOps. So we have that functionality. SpiraTest really is that drop-in tool that integrates with those other tools. And it could be different products using different tools. So you could have ERP using Jira, human services using Jira, website and CRM using Azure DevOps, and the other four using, I don't know, GitHub, GitLab, Redmine, you pick. So it doesn't have to be the same tool across the entire system, which is really nice. And it could even be different instances of Jira too. So lots of flexibility. So these requirements will either be manually entered like I just did, or input from a spreadsheet, or from a tool like TestRail, or they can be synchronized with tools like Jira. So there's lots of options. Once you've got your requirements in, and then you have your releases, I just created 2 releases. The next thing we might want to do is just say, well, guess what? Which of these requirements is going to be in which release, and how important are they? And I can go ahead and do that here. So I can either do it on this page in bulk, or I could click on one of these items and I can do it on what's called the detail page. The detail page is where you see the workflow of the requirement. You can also see the test coverage. There aren't any tests right now. You can also see the history of any changes that are made. So there's a full audit trail of every change made in the system. And here you can see is where I change the type of that requirement. So let's go ahead though, and we're just going to assign this to a release. So we'll say that this is a really important functionality. It's in the first version. It's in our MVP. Its priority is high. We haven't defined any components, so that's empty. We could define components too. The next one is inviting friends. Let's say that's going to be the next version. That's not in our MVP. It's high, but maybe it's medium. And then the next one is the searching, and that also is in the next release. That's also medium, so like that. So very easy to navigate, very easy. Look how fast that is to load. Super easy, super quick. Go back to my requirements list. Now I've got a prioritized list of requirements, and I've also got them tied to a specific release. So from a requirements management, I'm in a good place. Now, what about testing? Well, how do I test these? So at the simplest level, I could go into test cases right here and say, well, let me create some test cases. I could go in here and say add test case. That's a good idea, but it'd be much easier if I could do that automatically from my requirements, right? I've already got some starting points. So I can do that. So if you go in here, I can simply go check, 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 and go tools, create test cases. It's now created one test case for each of these particular requirements. It's done for me. If I hit refresh, you'll see you've now gone from not covered to these bars. And if I go over to my test case model, you'll see I've got 3 different test cases. It's taken the name of the user story or requirement, and it's prefixed it with the word verify, and it's made it a test case, and it's linked them. So it makes it really quick. Now, for those who are saying, well, that's pretty cool. What if I wanted more detailed test cases? Now, we do have a new feature we released, which is not for today's demo, but with our ChatGPT OpenAI integration, you can actually now also have AI generate multiple test cases for you as well. So if I take a requirement, the AI can actually generate 10 different test cases for each one. So we've got some more sophisticated options for auto generation of test cases. And that was at a webinar I did about 2 weeks ago. So if you want to learn more about that, please refer back to that webinar. Now, okay, but from a basic functionality, even without AI, we've got that automation in place where you can create a single test case for every requirement. But I want to categorize these. These are really functional tests. They tie back to each of the requirements individually. So let's create a new folder, which I'm going to call functional tests. And I'll put these in there. So if I want to create a new folder, it's really easy. Just add a folder. And I want to drag them into the folder. So I'll put those into the folder. They're in the folder. Very nice. And now I want to maybe create a regression test end-to-end functionality. Okay, so I'll create a new folder called regression tests. Okay, I'll create that. And in that one, I'm going to go and use the functionality natively in the test module to create a test case. So whereas before I created it from the requirement, now I'm going to create it just directly in the test case module. So I'll create a test case, which will be end-to-end regression test. Now, in real life, you'd probably give it more information than that, but that's good enough for the demo. So I've now got a end-to-end regression test, and I've got 3 functional tests tied to each of my 3 user stories. So what do I do next? Well, I've got tests. I could run them, but if I click on one, when I click on one, I'm going to notice that the test is quite basic. It literally says, as a user, I want to be able to enter a cuisine and find a restaurant, and the step pretty much says the same thing. Now, for some early stage MVPs, this might be sufficient. If you've got very skilled testers and you're doing exploratory testing, you can make this test an exploratory test, and you can run it right now, and you can actually add the steps as we go. So you could go in here and say, you know what, we don't have a test defined yet because this is brand new functionality. Let's go ahead and run it as is. So let me show you that way, which is we go in here and we execute it as exploratory. And I'm going to choose release 1. This is the first version, hit next. And in my exploratory mode, I can literally write my tests from scratch. So I actually, well, let's pretend I haven't got a real application, so we're going to have to use a bit of our imagination. I'm going to create, do something, and I'm going to find a restaurant. So that's the thing. The first thing I'd want to do would be to, choose a cuisine from a list of options. And the expected result would be the list displays and includes certain expected, types of food. And we'll put some of it later. Actual result would be, and this is, I'm testing as I'm doing this, so it's exploratory testing. So the actual result was the list was displayed. Looks good. So I can do this where I'm literally writing my test as I'm doing it. So I add a step and say, okay, next thing would be, I've chosen the cuisine, click on the list on the dietary restrictions that I care about, gluten-free, kosher, halal, whatever it is that makes sense. Expected result, the list of the options cover what I need, and the expected result was, the list contained kosher, halal, and gluten-free. Maybe that's all I wanted. That's good. Okay, create another step. And as I'm doing this, I can also pass the steps as I'm doing it. So I'm testing and writing it. So this is exploratory testing. And we'll do one more, which is click on the search button. The expected result was the list of restaurants in 5 miles that match is displayed. And maybe we didn't get we got an actual result that was wrong. We got an actual result that said the list displayed no results. So with exploratory testing, you might be putting in data and writing a test simultaneously. So this is the most free-form way you can do it, which is write the test, run the test all at once, fully exploratory, and you can capture things like a screenshot. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to pretend this is a screenshot of the app. It's obviously just a web page. I'll put that in there. There we go. So you can paste in what happened, and we can even log a defect. Now, because this is not yet, finished functionality, it's evolving, we may not want to log a defect yet. We might just want to log a failure. So we do that. So now I've finished my exploratory test, hit fail. Now I can update the test case with my new information as opposed to just finishing. And because this is an exploratory test, that makes sense. So I'll do that. So what I've done is I've just taken a one-line test. I've turned it from an exploratory test of one line into an actual test result. And I've also taken the test and built out my steps, which is great. So I've now got a test case that is ready for it to be tested non-exploratory. So I can now switch the type from exploratory to regular to functional, say, and now when I do that, it's going to be run and the person won't be able to change the steps. So we have this exploratory mode, which is completely free form. You're writing and running simultaneously. And we've got more of a traditional test where it's a scripted test that someone's going to follow, and one can switch from one to the other. So that's really cool. Now, how would I create a regular test case from scratch if I wasn't doing it in exploratory mode? So let's take the next one. This is the case I want to invite friends to collaborate on a search to find restaurants that we all agree on. Okay, well, so to change the test case, normally you don't usually run it at all. You can use the edit functionality. So I've got this default step that's in here. I can either remove that or edit that. I'll just edit it and then add a new one. So the first step would be, I'm now writing this test case more as a traditional test case. You can use BDD syntax or regular syntax. As a user, I want to invite friends to collaborate in a search. So the first thing you would do would be, click on link to find friends. Hopefully you have friends. Expect result, the user search appears. And I know just because of time, I'm going to go a little quicker. The next one would be enter in a friend's name. The user match is displayed. And the last step would be select one or more friend and invite to group. The request is created and users notified. So a very simple test, 3 steps. Now, that's great. So I've got my test case now. I've got one test case that was written from an exploratory session that I've turned into a test, one that I've just written normally. Now, one thing you may notice is I haven't logged into this application. Authentication has not been done. So how do I do that? Well, I could go to this and simply say add step, add a login step. But I don't want to do that because that's going to mean having to go into both of these and add the same step, which is kind of annoying. And if I change my login screen, I got to go search and replace every place and change it. So one of the things we have in Spira is the ability to create basically reusable test components. So if I wanted to create a new test, I'm going to put in the root folder. I can create a new test called login. So let's do that. We'll call that login to system. And I'm going to then reuse that test in my other tests. So I'll create login to system. And I want to obviously have these users log in as different people. So I'm going to create some input parameters. So I'll just create, for simplicity, username and password. Like that. Okay. Hit save. And then what I'll do is I'm just going to write a simple login step, which would be click on login button. The login window is displayed. Save that. And we're going to hit another step, which would be enter login and password and click submit. The user is logged in as the expected behavior. And we won't worry about the exception cases just again for today. And I'll put the sample data in here. I want a bulleted list, bullets, and I'll say username. And I'm going to put my parameter in. So I'll grab that, drag it over here. And I'm going to put username there. Password, I'll put there. Right there. Okay, save, done. I've now got a login test case. So now if I go back to my 2 functional tests, I can now insert this login step right here as the first one. So I go in here and say insert link. And I go to functional test, as it's in there. And I'm going to put login would be, user, change me. Okay, do the same thing for the next test. And now I don't have to have those same steps duplicated. So if I have to change my login page, I don't have to go in and do that multiple times. I can change my login page in one place and they'll both pick up the change. And you can even change the login and password they're using. So I've now got a reusable component included in my test. And you can do this multiple levels. So I've now got 2 test cases using a common component. I can now do my testing. So let's go ahead and test them. So to do the testing, you can either run them individually or you can create what's called a test set. That's like a test suite. Let's go ahead and create a new one. And we'll call this testing of MVP. and we're testing release 1. So we'll say that. And I'm going to assign it to myself. And it's not started. That's right. I'm going to click on that. And then let's go ahead and add me to the test. So let me add the test cases. So I'm going to grab my functional tests. I'm going to grab all 3 of these. And I'm also going to add my regression test, which is the one I created separately. Add that. So I've now got 4 test cases. And that's the right order. If you want to change the order, you can always drag and drop to move them around. But that actually is the right order. So I'm just going to leave it as is. And I will assign it to myself. That's good. So I'm ready to test. So if I hit the execute button, or if I go now, normally in real life, I wouldn't execute here. I would go back to my page, and I would see under my assigned test sets, my testing. So, and I get an email notification as well. But let's go ahead and run it from here like a real user would. And I'm going to run my test. The release is chosen because it was in the test set. The builds are empty because we haven't hooked this up to a CI tool. If you connect this to your CI tool, you have that option. We haven't defined any test run tag. We can add test run tags if you want. We're not doing that. And so now I'm going to go in here and I'm going to run my test. So let's go ahead and run my test. Click on my login button, pretend that worked. That worked. Choose a consume from a list of options. Click on the dietary restrictions. And now let's pretend this did actually work. So that's great. Get the search button, great. And now I go to the next one, which is inviting friends. Click the login button, log in, it works. And now we get to the link to find friends. Say that when we go in that link, it throws an error. So we get an actual result of a missing page error, a 404. No one likes a 404. There's a 404. I'm just going to grab a print screen of that page. We'll dump that in there. And now we want to log a defect because this is now in production or it's in development. It's ready for logging defects. When we're exploratory testing, we might decide just to have a failure, not log a defect. Let's go ahead and log a defect though, because this should work by now. It's a bug. These types are all customizable. If you are connecting to ADO or Jira, they will match the ones in Jira, and then we synchronize those values over. We also will synchronize over to Jira things like labels and tags, priorities, severities, components, and all that good stuff. Actually, this is pretty critical. I'm going to raise that up a bit. And we'll say, broken link on collaborate screens. Okay. And with that, we're going to hit a fail. We've now failed that defect and failed that test and logged a defect, which is great. Well, great for us in the demo, bad for the people building the system. And for right now, when we go to the next test case, we want to have a group of users to receive restaurant recommendations. Well, I can't do that because I've got no users, and I can't test this functionality because the previous failure is preventing me. So how do I record that? Well, that's where the blocked functionality comes in, because the reality is this, I don't know if this functionality works or not. I just can't use it yet because there's no users to use it with. So I'm going to say blocked by failure to add users. So it's an area of risk, which is that I can't test this part of the system. So we'll mark that as blocked. We also have a caution, which is a warning status. Okay, I've done my testing, so I'll go hit finish, right that. And if you go back, you can see, because I have one test I didn't finish yet, it is warning me there's one still left to go, and I can hit this button. And if I want to resume it, you go to my pending test runs, and there you can see I've got one passed, one failed, one blocked, one not run yet. I can resume it by going here, or I can assign it to someone else if I'm not going to have time to finish it. So in real life, I want to come back here. I can resume it, and I guess what? I will just finish it off. Just to wrap this up, I'll just do a pass. And now I've passed it. I can now hit the finish button, and now I'm good to go. So I've done my testing. I'm finished as a tester. So if I go back to my test set, you'll see here, there's my status. If I go to my test set, I can drill down and see, look, these are my 4 tests. This first one is been passed, but if I click on it, I can drill down one level further and see, although this test case has passed, when it was first created, it did actually fail. So you can see the history. So even though it now passes, and that's the current status within the context of this release in this test set, there's always an audit trail of what happened. When I first did it during exploratory testing, you can see there was a failure, but now on the second go around, once we got it into the test set, that functionality was finished, and now it obviously passed. So you've always got that history. If I go to the other one that failed, which is the one that failed in the most recent release, which is it's this one here. If I click on this one, I click on the failed link, I can go straight to the test result, and you can see the first 2 steps passed. That was my login, the data that I used. There's my screenshot, and there's my log defect. If I click on the link, takes us into the defect tracking of SpiraTest, which is right here. And I can now see the defect. And we have included the description of what failed, the expected result, the actual result, a screenshot, and the steps where it broke, how far I got. If you synchronize this to something like Jira, we're going to synchronize this over to Jira ADO, and you'll see it right there as well. And the attachment is right here, and that way it makes it really easy. And in real life, out of scope of today's demo, we could then assign this defect to someone. They could then work on fixing it, and then we could do a retest, and that would be great, hopefully. And so and we can even say how long we want to think it's going to take. And I'll just add a comment saying, Fred, please fix, like that. So there we go. So that's a little bit of how you do the triaging. So just to allow time for questions, which we've got about 5 minutes at the end. One more thing just to mention before we wrap is before we go to questions, if you go to requirements, you'll notice that even though I've created that project really quickly, I already have good test coverage metrics. I can go here and see, here's my requirements. And I can see that my first requirement under my finding a restaurant is tested, but I've got some major issues on the second part. The group management, there's a failure. I haven't been able to test the restaurant recommendations functionality because the failure is blocking me. So as a test manager, I want to get this test unblocked as quickly as possible. So my critical path is basically this failure here. And if you go to the dashboard that we first saw at the beginning, this is obviously now for my new project, we can even see that the metrics are already starting to populate here as well. So even though we've only created a few test cases and one defect and a few requirements, we already have pretty good metrics to start with. And if you compare this with the project that I showed at the beginning, which is fully populated, you can see as you start to use the data, run the system, and add more test cases, the data just gets better and better. And you as the manager have no extra work to do. Your testers are working, doing their testing, developers are doing the developing and the fixing, BAs or people are doing all the requirements analysis. Everyone's working together. They might be doing it in different systems, but you have this single pane of glass where you can see the real-time status. And if you go to the reporting view, you can also drill down further and you can do things like picking different fields and creating more customized graphs and charts if you want to be able to slice and dice the data a little bit differently. I want to look at the different requirements by priority and see how they compare. I want to look at the testing and see maybe is it varying by the tester or is it varying by the component I'm working on or a custom field or anything or the priority of the test case. So you've got lots of different ways of slicing and dicing the data. And you can export these graphs and charts as data. You can also run reports and create documents and other things as well. A lot more to show, but in the interest of time, that's a really quick overview of creating a product, running an exploratory test, writing a regular test, running both, logging results, creating a defect, and seeing it all come together in about 30 minutes after the slides. So with that, Rick, do we have any questions?
Yeah, we do. We have a couple questions that came in. One of them I already answered with a link, but
okay.
I thought the wider group might want to know. It's about can we import requirements from an Excel file?
Great question. So can you import requirements from an Excel file? The answer is yes. We have multiple options for that. If you go to our website, go to products, go to SpiraTest, expand it, go to add-ons and downloads. At the top, we have our importers. We have an Excel import tool. This is the most modern one. It's on the Excel marketplace as well. We also have it for Google Sheets as well. So if you're not a Microsoft customer and you're a Google customer, we do it for both Excel and Sheets. We also do have it for Microsoft Word as well.
Great. And then Sonia asks, I appreciate you retyping the question in the chat window. Is it possible to import test cases from PyTest and analyze the test results in the tool? Test runs are done in automated mode.
Yes. So what you typically would do is go to our Python plugin, which is right here. It's also on PyPy, Pypi, if you know what that is. That's the package manager for Python. Hold on, it's right here. So if you go to PyPy, it's called it's the PyTest integration. It's right here. That will actually let you that imports automated test results from PyTest straight into Spira. That's if you're using PyTest. Now there are some people using Python but not using PyTest. So don't worry if that's you. We have another package on PyPy, which is a more generic way of importing results, which is here. And that reads any type of automation script using Python that supports the XUnit XML file. So there's different ways of doing it. If you're using PyTest or PyUnit, we've got pre-built connectors. If you're using Python, but not those frameworks, we have a more generic option as well for you. And they're all on again, on the Python marketplace, which I think, again, is called PyPy, and then these are all of our projects right here.
You're making me hungry with all this Py talk. So
yeah, and we also have Robot Framework on the too, which is another Python-based test framework.
Right.
Sorry.
Last question someone asked earlier was how many seats are available or how many users can be in a trial at one time?
Oh, great question. For the trial, it is 20 concurrent users as per standard. And if you need more than that, we can adjust it.
Okay. And you mentioned that they could upgrade the trial or just do they have to sign up for a new trial if they want to do a Spire plan, for instance?
It's really up to you. If say you're on SpiraTest and you said, I would love to see the boards, some clients are they would rather have it just switched over to Spira Plan or Team. And if that's the case, ask your account manager. When you sign up for a trial, you get an email saying, hey, I'm Rick, I'm Bob, oh, I'm Jane. Email back to that person and they can do it seamlessly for you. The other option sometimes customers do is they say, well, I'd love to compare the two. So kind of a separate trial. You can do that yourself. You just click on those padlocks. It opens up the option for a new trial and create another trial with a different URL. And now you can have a SpiraTest trial and a Spira team or plan trial. We don't mind. And that way you compare them. So it's up to you. If you want to have one trial and just see the difference we got data in there and you want to keep that data, I would upgrade your trial. If on the other hand, there's not a lot of data in there, you just want to see them both side by side, you could do a second trial. It's really up to you.
All right. Well, those are all the questions we have today, Adam. I really appreciate it. It was a very thorough and speedy demo, as usual. If you have any questions, certainly reach out to sales@inflector.com. Myself and the team are always there to answer those questions, and we'd love to give you even a more detailed demo to learn a little bit about your company and those kind of things as well. So just reach out to us if you have any additional questions. And again, thank you very much, Adam, for today's webinar.
Thanks, Rick. Nice to see everyone, and see you at the next one.